It was one of those Saturday mornings where the house felt strangely still, the kind of quiet that's almost suspicious. My husband, Daniel, had been acting oddly all week, disappearing into his study for long stretches, speaking in short sentences, and giving me a smile that seemed knowing. I assumed it was work stress. He'd been under a lot of pressure lately, managing his construction company and trying to land a big city contract. But when he announced over breakfast that he was heading out for the day, alone, something in his tone felt intentional. "Why don't you spend some time with Luke?" he said casually, sipping his coffee. "I'll be gone until dinner." Luke was Daniel's childhood friend. They'd been inseparable since middle school, the kind of friends who could go months without speaking and still pick up exactly where they left off. Luke had recently moved back to town after years away for work. I'd only met him briefly during Daniel's welcome home barbecue. He was warm, polite, and had an easy smile, but I didn't know him beyond that. "Why Luke?" I asked, puzzled. Daniel shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant. "He doesn't know many people here anymore. I thought maybe you could keep him company. Show him around." Then he winked, which only deepened my confusion. Before I could press further, he kissed my cheek and left. An hour later, Luke knocked on the door. The sunlight caught the dust motes in the air as I opened it, and there he was, jeans, a gray t-shirt, holding a small paper bag. "Daniel said you might be bored." "I brought cinnamon rolls," he said with a grin. We settled at the kitchen table, the scent of cinnamon and sugar mingling with the fresh coffee I poured. Conversation was easy. Luke told me about the years he'd spent in Chicago, the hustle and noise of the city, and how he missed the slower pace of home. I told him about my work in interior design, my recent project renovating an old farmhouse, and the funny mishaps that came with working in unpredictable weather. It was comfortable, too comfortable. After an hour, I realized I was laughing more than I had all week. When the rain started unexpectedly, Luke suggested we go through some old photo albums he'd found in his moving boxes. We sat in the living room, flipping through snapshots of his and Daniel's high school days, awkward haircuts, ridiculous fashion choices, football games under Friday night lights. It felt like stepping into a part of my husband's life I'd never seen before. One picture made me pause. It was Daniel and Luke at a camping trip, both about 19, smiling under a canopy of pine trees. They looked carefree, untethered. "That trip," Luke said softly, "was the first time we realized we could trust each other with anything." Something in the way he said it felt heavy, like it carried unspoken history. But he quickly changed the subject. By noon, the rain had cleared. Luke offered to help me with a home project I'd been putting off, repainting the fence in the backyard. I laughed at the idea, but handed him a spare brush. We worked side by side, teasing each other about who was making a bigger mess. Paint splattered on my sneakers, and Luke jokingly declared himself the artistic director. Halfway through, I noticed how peaceful the moment was. No phone calls, no background noise, just the sound of brushes scraping against wood, birds in the distance, and the occasional breeze carrying the scent of fresh paint. After we finished, we sat on the porch steps sharing lemonade. He told me about a difficult breakup he'd gone through last year, how it made him realize he'd been neglecting the simple joy of good friendships. "People matter more than we think," he said. "Sometimes we don't realize it until they're not there." I didn't know why, but his words stayed with me. By late afternoon, I invited him to stay for dinner since Daniel wasn't home yet. I cooked pasta with roasted vegetables, and Luke set the table, humming softly to himself. We talked about everything from travel dreams to our favorite books. There was no rush, no awkwardness, just an ease that felt rare. Then, as I was loading the dishwasher, Luke said something that made me stop in my tracks. "You know, Daniel wanted this," he said. "Wanted what?" "For you and me to spend the day together. He told me he thought you'd like having someone around who could just be present. No deadlines, no distractions. He said you've been carrying too much lately." My throat tightened. I didn't realize how much I needed that. For months, I'd been juggling work deadlines, keeping the house running, and worrying about Daniel's business stress. I hadn't let myself slow down. Luke smiled. "Sometimes, people love you in ways you don't see at first." When Daniel finally came home, he found us sitting on the porch, still talking. He looked at me, then at Luke, and there was that knowing smile again. "Looks like you two got along," he said. I realized then that Daniel had left us alone on purpose, not out of neglect, but because he knew I needed a reminder that connection could come from unexpected places. That day didn't just give me a new friendship, it gave me a piece of myself back. But here's the part one didn't expect. Luke didn't just disappear into the background after that. Over the next few months, he became part of our lives in small but steady ways. He dropped by with coffee when Daniel was working late. He helped me pick out flowers for the garden. He even joined us for Sunday dinners. And each time, I felt that same quiet gratitude for the space Daniel gave me, for the trust Luke showed me, and for the reminder that sometimes the people around us can see what we need before we do. Daniel never explained exactly why he planned that day the way he did, but I didn't need him to. I understood now. And I was glad I'd let myself be present in it, because I had taken it further than just small talk or polite company. I'd let it reach a place of genuine, lasting connection.